Hi there, this is Andy Collins, the Internet Hitting Coach. Today I want to talk to you about coaching third base. I got introduced to this maybe 40 years ago. We were a group of 19, 20-year-olds, and um, yeah, that sounds about right. I was thinking, man, that makes me really old, but different story. We were at 1920 or so, just playing, just doing probably similar. If you've been following along and you're interested in this channel, it's because you want to get better at softball or baseball, and you maybe coach or you just play, and that's fine. And what we were just doing that when we were younger. We just enjoyed the game, and we just beat the ball around and we'd run around. And I don't know if you've heard this before, but I'll go coach third base because I made the last out. And that was pretty much the way we chose our third base coach. But we ended up with a guy on our team who was actually the college coach at Ventura College. And when he coached third base, totally different story. I remember sitting in the dugout and somebody had come back from third base and he goes, "Man, that guy gives you the whole story. He told you how many outs there were. He told you what to do if it was on the line drive, on the ground, or in the air, what to watch out for, where to go, all this other stuff." And that made a big impression on me, and I started the process of learning um, how that can be a valuable offensive weapon on your team rather than just kind of having somebody there. Um, so what I have found is that you can, and the different games that I've coached, I've noticed a difference between a well-knowledge coach at third can make the difference of one or two runs in a game. And obviously, you've been in enough games to know one or two runs can make the difference between winning and losing. So let's talk about how you coach third base. What kind of things are you looking for? Well, one of the things you're doing is you're reminding the runner. Almost all of us kind of have brain freezes from time to time, and in the midst of a fast play, we don't always think the correct way. But if we had just been reminded, then we will probably execute the way we were reminded. Because we all pretty much know what we should be doing. If there's less than two outs and the ball goes in the air, we should get back and tag up. I've seen too many times where somebody goes halfway down the line, and by the time they come back to the base and go, they either get thrown out or they don't score that run. And that's what I'm talking about. We could score runs based on proper coaching. So, ball in the air, less than two outs, remind them to get back to the base. Grounder to the right side. Do you want that person running on contact so that you can get a run in? Many times, or any grounder that's deep, will they think about coming home? Now, you don't want to get your guy thrown out, but a lot of times if they're trying, it is a tag play more than likely, unless the bases are loaded. So it's harder to do a tag play than a force play. So that's one thing to watch out for. And then the thing that we always tell our runners, freeze on a line drive. You don't want to be caught running. They get a line drive, they throw it back, force you out at third base. So those are the quickest things you can remind your runner to do. And then also, if there's two outs, remind them to be going on anything. Unless it's right back to the pitcher, then maybe they would be thrown out easily there when they might have a tougher play to get it out at first. So again, all of those things you can remind the person. Now, the other thing to do is, these are the types of things that you have to have in your head, is you need to know how many outs there are, of course, what the inning is, who's coming up to bat after this person. If you've got a runner either on third or he's coming around to your base, who's coming up after them, so that you know on a percentage basis how well a person's going to get the next hit, or whether you go ahead. In other words, if you have, say, a 500-600 hitter coming up, there's a good chance you may want to leave that person at third, as opposed to if you have a 100 to 200 hitter, that chances are they're not going to get that hit you need. Then you may take the chances, of running and trying to score. So those are things that you want to do. And then it also depends how late in the game it is. You may take more chances on trying to get runs when you have a close game that's going to make a difference. There's no sense in running up the score or trying to get a run or two when you're 15, 20 runs down. One run at a time is going to be more important than trying to squeeze an extra run at the risk of an out. So always you're trying to not have outs, but runs are the ultimate scorekeeper. So you're doing this constant thing in your head of how many outs, how many innings, who's coming up, who's behind that person even, what's the score now versus what's the score later in the game. All of those things add up into your head as you're thinking these things through for what you're going to do with your runners. We also haven't talked about varying speeds of your runners, how smart they are on base running. Did they take the right angle? Did they get a good jump from second? Did they come through? Are they coming through straight? Are they coming through to cut the corner? So the only other thing I would add is maybe where you're positioned. They do have that little box that you're supposed to stay in, but nobody ever gets called out for being out of that box. So you'll see, if you've ever watched games or do it yourself, don't be afraid to come down the line farther and make the decision a little bit later if you have the time, to kind of a go, no-go situation based on how well you can see the throw coming in. And that's another thing you've got to have in your head. Do you know how strong everybody's arms are of the defense? So knowing all of those things, you see how just throwing the last guy out there doesn't make sense. I remember one game I was playing in, first time a guy had come, and he just, because he was a knowledgeable player, he kind of took third base, but he didn't know how fast anybody was, what their skills level was. Those kind of things you need to kind of work into so you know the team before you become third base coach. I would tell you that in my own personal experience, I chose a team and I think we played with 10, and I batted 1, and the other coach batted 6. I only had 2 of us coach so that we would always have somebody that the team knew to look for at third. The other thing I guess I should add to that is what kind of hand signs. Really make them visible. Don't have a person guessing. Don't have them kind of, well, the guy mumbled something to me and then he chooses to do his own thing. We have a big round, come on, keep coming. Hold there. Get down if you want them to slide. Sometimes you can hold them and say get back to the base by pointing to the base. The trickier one is when you have 2 runners that you're responsible for, the runner rounding second as well as the runner that's coming through third. So you want to somehow have some kind of notion that if you want one guy going and one guy staying, you've got to kind of figure out how to have that going. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward of those motions. So with that, hopefully you will find more success at coaching third, getting that extra run or two, winning more games.